What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, time for a little mailbag. At John Middlekauff. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered here on the show. I don't know why I just did that, but big fan. I don't understand all the hate with Nico. Your analogy about an average guard doing a holdout makes complete sense, but I feel like the hardcore college football fans want this to fail so badly because of the anti-NIL sentiment. If Jeremiah Smith does a holdout next year, Ohio State shouldn't pay him? Question mark. I think that's ridiculous. As an ASU fan, I know Sam Levitt had some renegotiations this offseason to get more money. He's a Heisman contender. I don't see a problem with that. He didn't hold out, but I bet some stars will hold out eventually. Well, you use Jeremiah Smith. He had an elite season as an elite player. No one has an issue with him wanting a raise. I forget the guy's name, but he was a huge recruit. And South Carolina, he's like honestly, he feels a little shiftier. I mean, Clowney went one, but like he's like this generation's version for South Carolina of Clowney. Elite pass rusher. I remember reading during the season, it was like they had to give him a huge raise so it didn't become a problem by the time the portal ended at the end of the season. No one had an issue with that. Kid was elite. No one has a problem paying the elites elite money. But when you throw one touchdown against good teams and then you want to raise when you're already being paid a premium, I think, I'm not counting the fans because I'm with you. Some people have an issue with NIL. Some people just want to see the best players on their own team. I think just someone independent like me, I don't care either way. You can make whatever you want to make. Doesn't matter to me. But I can judge an individual situation. And, I know Nico's camp has come out and said it was because of the offense. Before I recorded this, he just committed to UCLA. I'm sorry, making $2 million in Tennessee with a really, really good team. No state income tax is not only financially beneficial in the SEC on a team that was just in the playoffs with a coach that's proven he can win to go to UCLA. Now, if you just wanted to go home, okay, I won't fault you if you wanted to go home. But if this was a business/football move, it's insanity. There's no way, not a soul from a football standpoint, and making $2+ million at Tennessee, going to UCLA where the basketball coach, Mick, never stops bitching and moaning and said that we don't have any money. So I think it's fair to assume that he took a pay decrease. And that's I'm just based on the gross number. I'm not even factoring in, what he's going to lose California's going to take. So he lost a lot of money. I think it's fair to guess, take an educated guess. And from a football standpoint, now they won 4 of their last 6 games. They went 5. They didn't even make a bowl game. Tennessee was in the playoffs playing Ohio State. And I would imagine they were a preseason top 12 team. Now, I did see Urban Meyer come out and say that Tennessee's going to be screwed, like who's going to play quarterback, which I think they could have a big downgrade at quarterback. Very true. So I don't know. I think this situation is just messy. But I think from Nico's standpoint, I hope it was his decision and not his quote unquote handlers or his dad or whatever, because they're not the ones playing. It's like when people, I see this a lot in relationships, and a lot of you guys that are my age or older that have seen people go through divorces, that have seen people just had messy breakups. If you're listening to this in your 20s, as you live life, you're going to see a lot of things, but no one, and I mean no one, can understand your relationship. They're not sleeping with the person. They're not spending or living with the person. So it's like it's their life to lead. Whether it's parents, whether it's brothers, whether it's friends, everyone can give their opinions and takes on your relationship, whether you should get a divorce, whether you should get married, whether you should break up, whatever it is. It's like, well, 2 people are in the driving the bus and riding shotgun. Everyone else is just a bystander. And it's like Nico's family or whoever, it's like, I hope this was the kid's decision. which is a very, very difficult spot to be in at 19, 20, 18 years old. I even saw a headline today, didn't click on the article, but I think it's fair. Like what the headline I saw, I would imagine Cam was given pretty good advice. Cam Newton was like, you got to be very careful about getting advice because a lot of it can get bad. And it's why you want to be in business if you're going to get an agent or people negotiating your deal with people that know what they're doing. And as a prospect and a revenue generator like he is, the Rosenhaus, the CAAs, I don't think Tom Condon is active as much. Ryan Williams, that does a lot of dudes like Mulgeta. I mean, I think there will be a lot of people that just know what the fuck they're doing. I would want to be in, but I also then defend the kid. Like, how would he know that? It's just messy. It really is. Given your background as a scout for the Eagles, could you shed some standout? You recruited, scouted, you blew your way. Additionally, I'd love to know the key prospects you were directly involved scouting. I think, a lot of GMs and personnel directors, there's not any guy that's going to get drafted, especially a guy with, I would say, 5th, 6th round. Once you get the 7th undrafted, like, is the GM watching those guys? But any guy in the top 150, 200 prospects on your draft board. Not only if you do the area, like I only did college 1 year, I did the West Coast, but if I had a player that had a 3rd round grade on him, I bet 5 other people watched him. The GM, the assistant GM, scout that cross-checks watching that position, and the college director. So by the time you've watched a player and all these rooms are talking about their draft board right now, most players, now that there is, the longer you do an area, the more you have a feel for guys and your sources, and maybe you argue if the entire room hates them. But for the most part, you're going to have some people on the guy's side, let's just say a polarizing player, and, non like Travis Hunter, and some people arguing against him. And then you just kind of talk it out. But I think this notion that it's like one guy's idea is just not really how it works. Because so many people, typically, especially bigger schools, like if I run the Eagles and we have Alabama or Ohio State or whoever has a lot of prospects, Michigan last year, you're going to have multiple human beings go through the program during the fall. So you have multiple sets of eyes that write the group up. And then on top of your decision makers all watching the guy. And then you factor in the coaching staff. So I think this notion of like diamonds in the rough, that died when this little thing called the internet started. Like the diamond in the rough does not exist because everyone knows who everybody is. And now there might be people in a draft room that don't agree with the player, right? I think this guy's better than you do, but that probably happens all the time. I was more active in terms of fighting for Andrew Sendejo. That's my claim to fame. I knew Andrew Sendejo could play. He played in the league for like 10 years. He was playing in the UFL. We didn't even have a write-up in the system on him from Rice. And Louis Riddick told me he sucked. And whenever I see him, we still make fun of him for that one. Just played for Mike Zimmer, Vikings, Cowboys for a long time. Big hitter. But in terms of like draft guys, like, yeah, I love Zach Ertz. Everyone's like, yeah, so do I. I was like, I don't think Matt Barkley's that good. Neither do we. So now, if the decision maker disagrees with you, it doesn't matter. But I think this notion that like one guy's pounding the table nowadays. Now, I guess the Eagles, we had a pretty big scouting department. Some scouting departments are smaller. The NBA 82 game grind is done. And now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. Can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through the finals. Now, the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been your go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will Curry drop 30? Will LeBron drop 40 or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make the playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Do you think it would be a smart move for the 49ers to trade Purdy to the Steelers for TJ Watt? Then the Niners would draft Sanders with their first-round pick. Shedeur seems like the type of quarterback that Kyle would like, very accurate and cheap. Plus TJ and Nick Bosa. Maybe you're alluding to TJ saying the deuces. I can't do that. As awesome it would be to have those two guys coming off the edge. This notion, and I've seen you're not the first person to ask some version of this. If everyone knew Shedeur Sanders was going to be as good as Brock Purdy, there is absolutely no way the Cleveland Browns would pass on Shedeur Sanders. And definitely the Giants would not. Zero chance. So both those two teams, he would never make it past 3. But no one knows that, including the 49ers. So you can't take the risk of like, what if he's not as good? Not even remotely as good, which it's kind of the bird in the hand thing. Now, there are variables you have to pay the guy, but like, regardless of the financial situation, you just know you can win games with him. You do not know that with even Cam Ward, any of these quarterbacks in this draft. So I think there's a big element to that there. What is to become of the running back market? Ashton Jeanty can probably go to the transfer portal, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, and make $10 million. I don't know if he can make that much, but I hear what you're saying. And be more valuable to a college team than an NFL team. Najee Harris, first-round pick, only made $10 million for his rookie contract. 4 1,000-yard seasons. And most running backs aren't making it on their third contract anyways. I think you're a little bold with your numbers. You know, I think the highest paid players in college football right now are making like $2 or $3 million. Nico was one of them. And they're quarterbacks. So if you could make $10 million for one season, then I think you would go to Ohio State and do that in a heartbeat. No brainer. I think that's like Cooper Flagg money, Caleb Williams money. So it's pretty rare. Now, it doesn't mean we can't get there. Najee Harris was a late first-round pick. Not only did he make $10 million through his first 4 years, I think I don't know what the guarantee was, but so I could be speaking out of turn because I saw like $9 million, but if the guarantee was less than that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I think Blake Corum is a good example. 2 years ago, he stayed when he could have came out, and he stayed for money. And because it's like, well, I'm going to go on the second day of the draft, but if you're going to pay me $2 million, then it's a no-brainer to stay. I think your numbers got so big, they don't even need to be that big. Who is the one athlete you would choose to have a one-on-one dinner with, and why? How would you react if said athlete is a complete asshole to the waiter serving y'all? That's a good question. I could take two approaches here. I could be like, I'll go Peyton Manning. You know, we'll just talk life. We'll talk business. We'll talk football. Try to become friends with him. Or I would take like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen and try to develop and cultivate a relationship so like they come on the podcast all the time. And it'd be incredible for my business. So from a business standpoint, it would probably be the right move to take, I mean, probably like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Dak Prescott. I mean, just on a sure numbers basis, if Dak Prescott is going to be the starting quarterback for the Cowboys for the next several years, going to dinner with Dak Prescott, become buddies with him, and having him come on my podcast all the time would be incredible for business. Brock Purdy, same thing, 49ers. Jordan Love. I mean, any of these quarterbacks in big brands would be. So, I mean, from a business standpoint, I would be crazy not to do that. From just a personal standpoint, not that Peyton would be bad for business, but in terms of guys playing on a weekly basis, if like they came on my show every Tuesday, that'd be a no brainer. I'd probably choose Peyton over Tom. Um, I think you asshole to the waiter. I have a hard time seeing that with most of these guys. But yeah, it's a pretty big turnoff. I mean, unless the waiters like I'll say one thing, and we went out to dinner last week in Scottsdale, and I've eaten out a lot, I would say, in my couple years living in this area. They charge you, and this is like most bigger cities, I guess. The restaurant scene is so over. It just costs an arm and a leg for the most places. I mean, there are Mastros, some certain steakhouses that are just pretty elite, but most places, I would say the food is very hit or miss. The service here sucks. I mean, sucks for what they're charging you. Now, is that a product of not enough people working? Is it just a product of people not being good at their job? I don't know. I don't work in the service industry, but are you allowed to be rude if it is really, really poor? Now, if someone's just overwhelmed, it's not their fault. Totally understand. But it would depend on the context. If you're just being a dick to be a dick, then yeah, I'd be out on you. What do you think about this year's wide receiver class? I know it doesn't have the top end talent like Marvin Harrison and JSN, but I do think it's got a lot of guys that are immediately plug and play starters. I do believe that this class has quite a bit of depth from programs. For example, I'm a Missouri fan, Luther Burton. I've seen him play in person for multiple years, and I think there's a chance he's a real star. I don't understand why he's falling in the mocks. I do think there are some question marks. I'll just leave it at that. I think there are just question marks. And sometimes when you see a guy fall, the people, especially people that are dialed in, DJ, Matt Miller, Todd McShay, guys that like do this for a living, like mock drafts. They're talking to a lot of people in the league. And when they just start telling you things that, it's not really DJ style to come out and just say what's really going on about a player. And I'm not using this as an example for Luther, but like that's usually why guys fall. And then there's sometimes just simple. It's like, yeah, we don't think he's as fast or whatever. Because I'm with you. I watched him play a lot the last couple of years. You guys were good. He was good. Um, I think last year, I mean, Malik Neighbors pretty elite prospect. Rome's pretty damn good. Marvin Harrison is like underwhelming, and he's pretty good based on one season. Not all his fault, but if you could redo the draft, I mean, you're taking Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison. We've just had pretty good wide receiver drafts over the last several years. I mean, really good wide receiver drafts. So I think there are a lot of question marks with this crew, right? Travis Hunter is like this hybrid player. So it's like, is he even a wide receiver? I don't know. McMillan, I think there are some question marks with um, just overall speed. Guys like him. I think there hasn't been a wide receiver drafted in the top 10 or 12 that ran as slow as him since Mike Evans. Now, Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer, but like it shows you there's a little bit of an outlier. And sometimes when you run in the 4.5s or 4.6s, even if you dominate in college, you get discriminated against. Now, I've seen a lot of guys, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, not Blazers, elite players, in the prime of their career. So I think you got to be careful about that. But those guys went in the second round. And I think historically, I mean, just look at recent memory. Some of the best wide receivers, some of the highest paid wide receivers have not been first round picks. Now, some of them have been, right? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, but there's also that crew of like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. So Terry McLaurin was not a first round pick. Diehard Ravens fan. What moves do you see us making this offseason? Not exactly sure on our cap space off the top of my head. Usually don't have much. Me personally would love to send maybe a first, maybe two first to Cleveland, but they'd never give. No, you're not getting Miles. Like the thing is in basketball and baseball, I can trade a guy whenever because their contract is going to pay by as you go. In the NFL with signing bonuses, like once I give a guy a huge contract, it's very, very difficult to trade the guy and even be willing to trade him. So I think with the Ravens, honestly, you guys have been good enough the last couple of years to win a Super Bowl. Really hasn't been a roster thing. Derrick Henry's a little older now. I mean, you signed him last year. He's old. I wouldn't be shocked at all if you draft a running back in, I would say, the first 3 rounds. You can never have enough offensive linemen, defensive line. I mean, I just think you guys are kind of meat and potatoes. But last year you drafted Wiggins, the corner from Clemson. He looks like he's pretty good. Humphrey's getting up there a little bit in age. A lot of wear and tear on those tires, but he's still a really good player. I mean, once they bumped him into the slot last year, Hamilton, you got Roquan. I mean, you got a good team. I mean, I don't know. Take the best players. What do you need? Just more sweet players? I mean, Lamar not to turn the ball over in the playoffs. I've been a Steeler fan my entire life and watched the peak of Ben Roethlisberger, and even in the years of decline, they never had a contingency plan. Why do you think Tomlin and the Steelers front office are so tone deaf with the quarterback position? I actually really don't think they are. I just think you find yourself, and I use this analogy with the Chiefs and tackles. When you draft late, what are you supposed to do? Listen, I didn't like the Kenny Pickett pick, but they did try. They took a guy with the 20th overall pick. It backfired, and he's not even on the team. Hell, he's on his however many teams. He's been on the Steelers, the Eagles. Now he's on his third team in whatever 3 years. But 4 years they tried. So I can't say they never tried. They did that. They drafted Mason Rudolph. What round did he get drafted? The third. Um, Last year they brought in those two guys. Now, granted, they were both cheap, but still, they tried. Neither of them worked. Right now, they're sniffing around Aaron Rodgers. I don't really. I would imagine they draft another guy this year. I give him more effort credit than you do. I was listening to a recent episode debating the top corners in the league. Why doesn't Christian Gonzalez get thrown into the mix? He missed a chunk of his rookie season, but almost immediately was a lockdown corner and proved that again in his second year. Interested to hear your thoughts. I think you guys have been really shitty. So when you've been that bad, you have the fourth pick this year, you had the third pick last year. I mean, your games have been unwatchable now for 2 years. Belichick's year and Gerard Mayo's year. Like, as a consumer, I love football. I do it for a living. After a couple weeks, I don't need to watch you play football. And the only times like I'm watching you, if like, okay, you're playing Josh Allen and the Bills. It's like, what's the point of this game? Right? Or Aaron Rodgers game, which I think you guys did win, which was cool. The one. Did you guys beat the Jets last year? Yeah, you did. Right? On a walk-off touchdown, I think, or basically a walk-off touchdown. Drove the field. Watch that game. But we're not consuming you, right? So, like last year, Stingley became a star. Why? The team was good. They've been a playoff team 2 years in a row. Patrick Surtain, how did he kind of take a huge jump? Well, his team last year was the playoff team. So I think a huge part of becoming a quote unquote sexy name or whatever, or talked about player in the NFL, it's really hard unless you're a rookie and like set some records. You're drafting the top 5 back-to-back years. We're not going to be as dialed into you. It's much easier to watch Steph Curry and LeBron than it is to watch like the Hawks. Anyone you like, offense or defensive rookie of the year? Fantasy picks for rookies. I think to make those predictions, you kind of got to see where guys go. I mean, one thing we've learned the last couple of years, who you are playing with as either a running back or like if I tell you the Chargers draft a running back in the first round, I would say I would probably like that guy to have a chance to be the offensive rookie of the year, right? If you tell me Denver or the Chargers draft a running back really high, I'm kind of gonna like it, right? So yeah, I think the fit for now defensive rookie of the year. If Abdul Carter goes to the Giants, I mean, is he gonna be? I don't know. Trying to think. Yeah, I think you just got to see where guys end up. Big fan from Canada. Always feel like Drew Brees is one of the most underrated and underappreciated athletes in sports. After being on the wrong side of some of the most iconic playoff games, such as the Minneapolis Miracle, the No Call, the Beastquake, the Vernon Davis, the Grab Game, do you think if a handful of these games ended differently and we would have a much different opinion of them? It always said that it was Brady in the Manning era, but I feel like it undervalues Brees just because the Saints defense made Sam Bradford look like the next great quarterback. It's a pretty good question. I would say I mean, if a couple goes away, I mean, the one, what if he wins the Super Bowl, right? The one, the pass interference, the Jared Goff year, what if they went and they beat the Patriots? It's not like the Patriots were world beaters that year. They beat the Rams, what, 13-3? So it's fair to say they were beatable in that game. I would say, yeah. I mean, part of it is like if I told you Drew Brees won two Super Bowls and went to another, I think we would look at him a little differently, for sure. And that's part of the way sports works. Like it's easy to make fun of James Harden. If James Harden was a two-time champion and an NBA Finals MVP, no one would say anything. Which non-player do you think contributed the most to Washington's success last season? I think you'd have to say the head coach. I mean, Adam Peters picked Jaden Daniels, but I think it's fair to say that everyone was on board there. And I think Adam's a stud, but their team, and I would imagine Adam would say this, like last year, their roster on paper was not a NFC Championship roster. So Dan Quinn getting those guys to believe, the toughness factor, just a well-rounded like operation. It's felt like for decades Washington was just kind of clueless, and part of, I mean, a huge reason their owner was always acting, Bruce Allen. They always had too many cooks in the kitchen, and it just feels like they're just a normal organization. They got a good GM. They got a coach that knows what he's doing. So I'd probably lean Dan Quinn. You said you're currently a five handicap. Describe the strengths and your weaknesses of your golf game. Things you need to work on. Also, where do you play in Arizona in the summer? Assuming Arizona is too hot, it's the best time to play. I mean, if it's 115, it's difficult to play. But if it's 108, 110, got the course to yourself. I can play 18 holes in 2 hours. Strength of my golf game, I'm a ball striker. Weakness, anything around the green, putting, worst putter in America. There is not a worse putter in America than your boy. It doesn't get any worse. I've changed putters. It doesn't matter. I'm just not a good putter. So I can play like shoot a 74 and I can putt like 100, and that's why I end up shooting in the low 80s. Putting, terrible. I would play golf in the heat any day over the cold. Should the Vikings take a page out of the Eagles' book and extend Addison early? Use the fifth year. Thought process is based on McCarthy being the guy and capitalizing on his rookie deal. Yeah, not a bad idea at all. I mean, he's probably going to get suspended, right, for that DUI situation from last year. But he's a player, so I never against extending good players. Now he's not going to be cheap, so you have, I guess Jamar is now technically the highest paid player, but one of the highest paid non-quarterbacks in the league at that position. So are you going to also pay Addison? It's like you're getting Addison for $50 million. I mean, it's probably going to cost you $80-90 million guaranteed. You're basically just taking the approach of the Bengals, I guess, which I can't fault you. I mean, you drafted these two guys, so yeah. I mean, I never against it. Now, I'd have to see the number. You could argue just let it play out because you drafted it. Jordan Addison, what pick? Forget off the top of my head, 21, 24, 25, somewhere in there. So he's relatively cheap. I just played out another year. I'm a lifelong Packer fan, and I'm so sick of just being good. My eyes don't really work anymore. It's fine every year with being in quote unquote the hunt, but damn, why won't the front office ever go get a big time playmaker? We've won two Super Bowls in my life, and every year it's the same thing. We're building for the future. Well, last year they need a veteran voice in the wide receiver room, and I think it showed at the end of the year. What's your opinion on why the Packers don't do shit every year? Uh, it's a good question. Coward's always had the theory, and I think he's probably onto something, is not having an owner is like a blessing and a curse. Not having an owner is incredible because for whatever reason, you have just had very, very capable from Ron Wolf, who's obviously a Hall of Famer, to Ted Thompson, to now to Gudikins. Like these guys are good, right? But there's not someone hanging over them with billions of dollars in a bank account, huge ego, and just like going to country clubs where his friends are asking him, like, "What's the deal with your team? Right? What's going on?" Seeing them at yacht parties. So there's not as much urgency and pressure as when you're just working for one of these super rich guys, especially the older super rich guys. So like they can just kind of slow and steady wins the race. And they feel the least likely to ever just, here's 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, right? But if I told you Andy Reid had traded for Myles Garrett, you'd be like, yeah, totally see it. Or Howie Roseman traded for Max Crosby. You're like, totally. If I told you the Packers had traded for Max Crosby, you'd have to do a double take. You're like, no way. Now, obviously those players weren't available, but even like DK Metcalf, like, and again, I'm not. They to me make more sense than the Steelers, but they would never do that. That's just not what they do. And you could argue like, why not? Why not take some big swings? And they just don't. And I do think that's because there's not someone truly looking over their shoulder. I know Mike Murphy's retiring, but it's just not the same. It's not his money. It's the franchise's money. Shareholders, which I'm still always a little confused how that works, but clearly there's not a guy that owns the team outright. I can't wait for Jeanty to be a star and for you to shut the fuck up. It's funny. All I do is just wonder. The draft is an economic exercise. So, like Saquon Barkley went number 2 overall. Saquon Barkley is a Hall of Fame talent. No one would argue that. Was it the right pick for the Giants? No. Christian McCaffrey went 8th overall to the Carolina Panthers. Was that the right pick for them? Like, I love Ashton Jeanty. I stayed up late on Saturday to watch him countless times play in kind of meaningless Mountain West games. He is a fantastic and elite player. But saying like, yeah, I would draft a lineman at 6 and then take a running back in the second or third round is not a shot at him. It's just basic football economics. And one thing, this clip I did with Coward the other day, um, I don't want to say went viral, but it just got put on a reel and hundreds of thousands of people watched it and people were commenting on it. And people were like, this guy's an idiot. What about Jahmyr Gibbs? He's because one thing is like a 5'8" running back. People are like, Barry Sanders is short. So we're comparing him to Barry Sanders. Like that's so it's like, okay, if he becomes Barry Sanders, what's the likelihood of that? It's like, well, Cam Ward, if he becomes Patrick Mahomes, like, well, yeah, no shit. You know, that's not how this works. Guess what? I've been alive for 40 years. You know how many Barry Sanders I've seen? One. So, like Jahmyr Gibbs, he's 5'9". Well, yeah, I would take Ashton Jeanty and Tyler Warren because that's what the Lions got with Jahmyr Gibbs. They traded from 6 to 12, and they got picked 37, and they got a tight end whose name's Sam Laporta to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, who, again, ran a 4.35. Now, maybe Ashton Jeanty is a 4.35 guy. If you told me that he had ran his 40 and ran a 4.35, I would be more bullish on the draft pick at 12. If you told me at like pick 12, 13, I'm not against it. I just think when we're talking about like pick 5, 6, 7, it seems a little extreme to me. In a class loaded with running backs, you can get like a starter in the second or third round and take my starting left tackle or defensive lineman in the first round. That's all I've been talking about. Not that like this guy sucks. I've never said that one time. He's a really good player. Awesome player. But we've seen 3 guys get drafted in recent memory in the top 8. And it's been a bumpy ride for the teams that drafted that guy, even though we know they're all sweet. Saquon with the Giants. Bijan Robinson is an elite talent. It's like, yeah, it's like not working out perfectly. McCaffrey's on the Niners. I've noticed that over the last year or so, podcasters and other sports analysts are wanting to talk more politics or about their spiritual beliefs. Why do you think that is? I understand that it's their show and they can talk about whatever they want. I know personally I'm more likely to tune in less frequently if they do. This is not specifically about Stephen A. thinking about running for president. What is your take? Uh, Stephen A. running for president? I do think it's a pretty genius business move for him. Just saying this constantly, driving more people to his show. I'm sure they just paid him $100 million, so people can make fun of him all you want. And listen, I don't watch First Take, but his business. I mean, he just got paid $100 million by Disney to basically talk about LeBron James. That's what that show is too. I notice this whenever I'm at the only time I ever see it is I'm at the gym and one of the main TVs has just ESPN on. So if you go in the morning, first takes is on. Everything is about LeBron James. I mean, I do. I'm not a LeBron James guy, and I fucking hate the Lakers. I do understand him just being like, these people talk about me nonstop. Ovechkin breaks the record, and there was a topic like what Ovechkin's record-breaking goal means for LeBron James's legacy, or it was like this is insane. But I think people in quote unquote sports media spend a lot of time on Twitter, like relative to the average person that just has a Twitter account. I would say that the majority of people, and I would say political media as well, people that quote unquote in the media spend a large portion of their internet going on Twitter. And if you live on Twitter, it can make you feel that like this is all everyone's talking about nonstop. Right? Sometimes like you're watching a Super Bowl or a playoff game or whatever, the Masters. It's like clear. A lot of people are probably paying attention to this, have opinions on it. But I think on a daily basis, if you live in that world, it can kind of convolute your thinking of how aggressively people want to talk about something. And I think their percentage of the pie chart relative to just some dude that like sells insurance or the electrician that just came over to my house to fix some screwed up things in my wiring, and just I don't know, normal everyday people that aren't in the media that have just jobs don't spend that much time and aren't inundated with these thoughts. So when you hear these people that, let's face it, all like the majority of sports media all lean heavily to one side. So they see their peer group all agreeing with what they're saying. That I think they have a I'm with you. I don't think most people like are in the mood. I think one thing that people screw up, and I think Twitter has made most of these people, it's hurt their ability to just I don't know, look at something through the lens of not trying to. I think groupthink definitely creeps in when you spend a lot of time on that app because you're afraid to go outside of the box, which let's face it, most successful people kind of push the envelope in any industry. And that used to be a huge part of media. The most successful people in the space, and still to this day, get crushed on Twitter, right? And I think honestly, I think that has a huge, huge problem for people, I guess, quote unquote, podcasters, uh, in terms of talking about politics. Stephen A. I mean, there's a lot of money in politics, so if you just want to talk about it, I guess if you're using him as an example, from a spiritual standpoint, I'm not quite sure I follow on that one. I don't listen. I listen to a decent amount of sports stuff and don't hear it that often, but maybe we're just listening to different stuff. But I think people just being too online. I mean, I really believe that. It's like, yeah, guys, you guys got to get to the real world every once in a while. And I think it can. It definitely started the downfall of radio, sports talk radio, is like 10 years ago. A lot of people just thought things that were big on Twitter were what people wanted to hear driving around their car, and just not a fact. Now, some things are right. If Adam Schefter tweets, I don't know, Derek Carr has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. But on an everyday topic and responding, the laziest thing is like, well, this is what people are saying. What? Because you saw like three comments? No, don't get me wrong. I like scrolling comments on Instagram or whatever as much as the next guy. But to think that that is the subset or represents human beings, I think you got to be very careful doing that. And I think a lot of people make that mistake, and it's why there's only a small percentage of people having success on a lot of these platforms, and definitely with success making any money because people tune off. And to me, I'm with you. It's like, bro, I just wanted to hear your take on like the Warriors game last night, and you're like going on some whatever about whatever. I don't care. And one, like, this is entertainment. And listen, obviously there are crossovers of this, but I do think people lose sight of that, of the entertainment factor. Like, this is a release. Like, our lives are stressful. There's a lot going on no matter what you're doing, whether it's your children, whether it's your relationship, whether it's the bills you have to pay. I mean, the stress of like, dude comes over to my house, I need a new circuit breaker. I'm like, it's how much? And then it's just like, geez. So the last thing I want to do if I'm about to take my dog on a walk is listen to some guy ranting and raving pissed off when I don't even believe that he's pissed off. It's like I just think you're doing this like performative art that I think you have a false sense of how many people even enjoy this shit. But other than that, Ashton Jeanty, I'm a hater.